Welcome to Wrasslin Raw!
All right, you're listening to Wrasslin Raw, and I hate to say it, but this is going to be a bit of a different kind of episode than what you were probably expecting. The wrestling world is in upheaval. That's the best way I can think to put it, because things are kind of fucky when it comes to streaming wrestling these days.
Especially the old content.
Yeah.
We are recording on January 1st, too, just so people know.
To give everybody a little context, I usually watch Monday Night Raw on the day of our recordings. I like to have it fresh in my head, and I sat down to view Monday Night Raw on the Cock this morning, and it was gone. Poof.
And then you went to Netflix, which we were told where things would be moved, and only some of it is there.
Yeah, real limited selection over on Netflix right now. So this episode is more or less going to be us just talking about what we know so far. I mean, there are a lot of listeners out there that might have been blindsided by this like I was. So we've been scrambling to do as much research as we can on the situation, and we've got some ideas as to what we think may be going on. But the biggest, most solid piece of information we have is that neither the WWE, Netflix, nor Peacock is saying anything of any use to anybody about what the fuck is going on with this transition and where these old episodes of Raw are going to be able to be found.
Yeah, they're being purposely
obtuse.
Yeah. They're not giving anything. They're not telling us anything. They're not guaranteeing anything right now. We've heard Netflix customer service have told people more is going to get added on Monday, the 6th, the first day of the first live Raw on Netflix, but zero commitment as to what more means. The Netflix customer service is also saying that we may have to wait until the end of 2026 when the license completely expires with Peacock, but they still aren't being concrete that we will get everything even in 2026.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good and bad. I think the good thing here is that we've been through this before when they switched over to Peacock here in the U.S. And obviously we have listeners everywhere, and it's going to be different for everybody, unfortunately. In the U.K. and everywhere else outside of the U.S., there's going to be different things happening. So that kind of sucks too. But like I said, the good thing is we've been through this before. It did kind of trickle its way on Peacock when they moved over a course of a couple weeks or so.
Yeah. I think that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe the same thing will happen. But again, nobody is releasing anything official about it. There's just, I mean, you can go on Twitter or Reddit or any of those sites or apps and see that people are just completely panicking over it. So yeah, there's really nothing that we have. There's no information we have to know what's going to happen.
As far as things to speculate, if you're in the U.S. and you've went to Netflix and looked at their Raw vault on there are things to show that are at least promising to say that maybe we'll be getting these classic episodes, because they do have, like, if you look, they start in 93. And then the number goes all the way up to 2001. There's like a spattering of episodes in every year. Then at 2001, it just ends. They don't have any more until 2022, which they have all 52 episodes. So maybe Peacock still has the rights to everything after 2001 to 2022. And maybe by Monday or in the next week or two, 93 through 2001 will get filled in, and no worries, we could just continue like nothing went on. Another thing that kind of lends to that is if you click on the year that we currently are, 98, there's 20 episodes listed out of the 52, but they do have a numbering and it skips. So if you're looking, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then no 6, skips all the way to 12, 13, 14, skips some more. So it looks like they have the numbering there for all episodes. So maybe that's a sign too that they're gonna get added. But again, no information. They're not telling us anything.
Well, and Ryan, like you were saying earlier before we started recording, just in the course of today, we started out today with 18 episodes in 1998, and I think you said we're up to 20 now.
20. So 2 got added at some point.
So that is a very encouraging sign for what we're looking to have to deal with here. But again, nobody has said anything. So speculation is the word of the speculation is the word of the day here.
Conspiracy.
Yeah. You would think that with this content, right now we're in the Attitude Era, probably the most popular era in WWF history. You'd think they would prioritize that, or at least give some kind of heads up, even if it's cryptic. Hang on, you jabronis, you'll get Stone Cold back in 3 weeks, or I don't know, something.
It just seems bizarre to me that you wouldn't put up your most popular era of wrestling ever.
Right.
Like, that you would just scrub it.
For me, like, you would think Netflix would say, okay, for those of you who are still currently watching Raw, it's going to be on Netflix starting January 6th. Every episode will be available moving forward. If you missed Raw last week, you can watch it. If you want to go back and watch every single Raw episode ever, you will be able to do that here on our great streaming app, Netflix. Yeah. Like, you would think they would say something, but they have not at all.
Yeah, they're being purposely cryptic about how they word it.
Missing an opportunity to put themselves over, really. I mean,
to me, the thing that worries me is they are purposely keep on using the word selected archive episodes.
Yeah.
And that is a worrying word.
Yeah, they're calling it like the vault or something. Is that what they're...
And if they are, like, there's no rhyme or reason to the ones they skipped either, because some of the episodes they're missing in 98 are some of the most classic episodes from the time. So like, if you're picking only certain episodes, why are you missing that one, but you put up, I don't know, what was that piece of shit Raw we had like 2 weeks ago that was just, that one's on there.
Yeah.
What sucks is, like, even if this gets resolved, we're going to go through this again at the end of next year because the pay-per-views are still on Peacock.
Right.
Yeah.
The old every single pay-per-view that's ever existed is still on Peacock. So what's going to happen with those in a year from now because WWE now has a true brand split. Raw is owned by Netflix, SmackDown is owned by USA, NBC, and NXT is owned by CW now. So there's like a true split. So you have these different streaming services that you need to have now in order to stream all of their content.
Yeah.
That's probably the saddest part of it all. It's WWF or WWE now. They got paid $5 billion and they basically said, fuck off, fans. We got paid. Fuck you.
Yeah.
They said, we don't give two fucks about what content you get. We got $5 bills.
Well, and on their side of things, the Raw is still on every week. Like, they still have to produce a show every week that people are going to tune into. So, yeah, maybe they just don't give a shit about the vault. We need to think of creative things for next week's show, not worry about who's streaming a show from 25 years ago. Yeah. So that's probably what's the priority for them as a company.
I guess, but I mean, wasn't that the whole point of them making their own network 10 years ago? Was we want to have a spot where we have all of the archived info?
Well, I think the bigger thing with the network was about the pay-per-view situation. I think Vince wanted to like streamline all the pay-per-view and basically own it and not use pay-per-view. I forget what the company is called. There's like a corporate company name for pay-per-view. Right. So I think that was really the main driving factor for creating the WWE
He wanted
network.
to consolidate control over his distribution.
Yeah.
Sure, but they went to great detail for the old stuff too. Like, they had their interface was laid out great for it. They added in good cut scenes from things. Like, they went to great detail to give us all of this old content at one point. They went back and remastered it all. I mean, it's...
Yeah. I'll think of it like a, I'm sure I'm going to butcher this, but is that called a prospectus? What you'd go in and present to an investor. They had a polished product that was perfect, but it wasn't really for us. It was to sell.
I guess.
Look at what we can do. Look at what we have. Look at our materials. Look at how we can organize it. Look at
our wares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at our subscriber base. Look at the numbers that we can pull with this material. Don't you want to buy it? And they bought it, and in doing so, assumed a certain amount of control. And now that we're two owners on, it's getting that much more diluted.
Yeah. It feels like, and I'm going to play this clip only because maybe we'll never get to use it. This was a new Brawl for All clip that I made, but it almost feels like it's directed towards us now.
Bro, this is a Brawl for All. This is a shoot, not wrestling. Bro, it's boom, 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 boom. Just look at it logically. Does it make any sense?
No.
It doesn't.
No. And it's not about the wrestling.
The Raw vault does not make any sense now.
It's about the boom, 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 boom in their pocket.
Yeah.
Right.
And Joe, you brought up a point earlier that I think is especially interesting. What happens in all of this shuffle? Naturally, we're concerned about Monday Night Raw and to a lesser extent SmackDown whenever we get there. But what happens to, I don't know, Shotgun Saturday Night? What happens to ECW in the long run? I mean, for now, it's still on the cock, but...
Yeah, right now it's still on the cock, correct.
Well, and keep in mind, too, that like even the pay-per-views, it won't surprise me at all if WWE switches back to an actual pay-per-view format because they're owned by the company that owns UFC now, and which was a deal that happened less than a year ago. And UFC still has pay-per-view events where you have to pay to watch them. So it won't surprise me if they totally shuffle their pay-per-view content, both classic and content moving forward too.
Wow, what a further kick in the balls. You have to pay for this subscription service and then also pay for premium content.
Right.
Not just this. You need to pay for this. You need to pay for Peacock.
Yeah.
If you want to watch NXT, you got to pay for CW.
And they're getting $5 billion from all those companies to to do it, so they don't give a shit. Yeah.
What's the service that UFC uses to do its pay-per-views? Is it Bleacher Report?
UFC they have a deal with Disney, so they're on ESPN Plus. And they have fights every weekend, but once a month they have a UFC pay-per-view. And ESPN Plus, I think, is like, I don't know, it's like $10 a month. It's not expensive, but if you want to watch those monthly pay-per-views, those are like $80.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So it's still a pay-per-view format for UFC.
So talking about international listeners, today all content started to get moved for them, not just Raw, including the pay-per-views and everything. And as far as old ECW, WCW stuff go, my understanding is right now there is literally one ECW show, December to Dismember or whatever. That is the only ECW content available internationally. So that's not very promising either as far as the ECW stuff goes.
So they don't have access to Peacock then because they had the WWE network still.
Internationally, no, Peacock was a US thing. Most people internationally, I believe, were still using the network.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They still had the network, and now they just got all moved to Netflix, I think except for Germany for some reason. Germany still has the WWE network, but I mean, maybe that's a solution. Everyone has to VPN into Germany. And
I guess kind of correct what I said a little bit earlier. I guess for us in the US, we've been through this before, but for those of you who are overseas outside of the US,
this is a new screwing.
This is new, a new screw job for you. So hopefully it'll work out the same way it worked out for us here when we went through the Peacock transition, but we'll see.
Yeah. Just to throw it out there to our international listeners, please, by all means, reach out to us. Lord Thomas, I'm speaking to you specifically. I'd like to know what's going on in non-US countries with all of this, because from our vantage point, it's a clusterfuck. And it was last time too, but this is even more of a clusterfuck given how spread out WWE has become. So I would welcome any kind of information or input from our listeners anywhere to just let us know how it's going for them, because it seems like everybody's going to get fucked one way or the other. It's just, you might be getting fucked in a different language. I don't know.
Not to go a little bit off topic, but it reminds me a lot of Star Trek and Star Trek fans, and the fact that a few years ago, Paramount and CBS merged, and created their own Paramount Plus streaming network, that was supposed to be the one-stop shop for everything Star Trek, all the movies, all the shows. Now here we are 4 or 5 years later, and they started licensing out the movies to HBO, so they're not on Paramount. This show got licensed out to Netflix, so if you want to watch that, you got to get Netflix now. It's the same thing. It's like just this, you need to have 12 different streaming networks to watch it all, and it's absurd.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely absurd. And again, one of the most beautiful things about the WWE network. Was it niche? Sure, absolutely. It wasn't everybody's cup of tea, but by God, it was literally everything you could possibly want as a wrestling fan in one app. That was actually pretty reasonably priced in its day, too.
It was. And laid out much better than the Cock or Netflix have laid out these episodes and how you could watch it. The fact that you used to be able to go, I'm on this episode, let me skip right to this match. That was no problem.
Yeah.
That's gone.
That's one thing that I'm not going to miss about the Cock is the ridiculous searches that you'd have to do to find things and the shitty way that it was all organized. I'm hoping Netflix does it a little better.
If they actually bring everything.
Yeah. Well, guys, let's talk about the future. Again, this is all speculation, so this could all change as of tomorrow, January 2nd. But we wanted to get on here and record and update our listeners as to what's going on, and part of that is going to be trying to figure out how to navigate the future. Worst case scenario, this stuff doesn't come back. Do we really want to record about something that our listeners can't watch, or at least can't easily watch? It's
right.
All things are possible when you sail the seas of the internet, but
when you raise the old Jolly Roger, anything's possible, but we can't expect that out of everyone out there that's listening.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and even in the little bit further future, we talked about possibly working SmackDown into our recaps, and we may have to reconsider that because who knows what's going to happen when the deal is over with Peacock, number one. And two, are we going to have both Netflix and Peacock personally, and are the listeners going to have both streaming services, or are they just going to have Netflix or just Peacock? So that's another thing to consider.
The overhead for the podcast got raised for everybody across the board.
Yeah.
Well, so my understanding is internationally, they should be getting SmackDown already. So that's another thing if Lord Thomas could update us on, but they should already have SmackDown on Netflix. Well, whatever they've added. I don't know if it's similar to Raw where it's limited or...
Oh, I wouldn't. Yeah, we will have to hear from somebody, but I wouldn't be surprised if our listeners outside the U.S. have no access to SmackDown at all anymore.
See, I was under the impression everything was moving from WWE Network to Netflix for international people.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just Raw specifically, nothing else, or all WWE content. Who knows? Like, I don't know how our international listeners would watch current pay-per-views. I'm not sure how they would do that.
Yeah.
Maybe they can update us on that as well.
Maybe that's something we can experiment with, is screwing around with VPNs and just to see, I mean, I don't know, how are accounts locked to, so like,
they are on Netflix. You give your home address.
Yeah, they use that geolocation shit to track which TVs are in your household and all that, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, I mean,
we're in the land of unknown right now, for sure.
Yeah.
Pretty wild to hear today that everything's gone from Peacock as far as Monday Night Raw goes. So that was a surprise.
That was another thing they weren't clear about. Like they said, yes, Raw is moving to Netflix starting in January, but they were just completely mum about, is that old content or?
They haven't even said, like, so the first Raw is January 6th. They haven't even said January 13th, or actually January 7th, can I go on Netflix and watch last night's Raw? Like, they haven't even said that yet.
Yeah.
Let alone classic content from the 90s. They're not going to address that if they haven't even addressed, like, okay, how do you watch current Raw if you're not watching it live?
Yeah.
Is it even possible? I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Because I know over Christmas, they did their first NFL football games.
Right.
And they were not. You had to watch it live. If you missed it live, go fuck yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't recorded and you could just go watch it on Netflix.
Right. And that's most likely a deal with the NFL. Maybe the NFL doesn't want people to do that. So who knows?
Exactly.
Who the fuck knows what WWE wants, because they're not telling anybody anything. So
yeah.
It's pretty
Triple
crazy.
H, drop us a line.
Yeah. It's been a while since we've heard from you, pal.
Yeah.
But the bottom line with all of this is that we're not going to have any really concrete answers until January 6th, when things are fully up and running, supposedly.
Right.
And even then, we still may not have fully concrete answers, because if best case scenario, it happens like it happened before, we may have to wait a month until 1998 specifically is fully fleshed out. We might get an episode here, an episode there. Like, the next episode in our listening schedule is July 13th, 1998. When the hell will that specific episode be uploaded to Netflix?
Yeah.
It might be Monday. It might be 2 months from now. It might be 2026.
Mm-hmm. Even if they do upload all of 98, our listeners in the U.S. are still going to have to be subscribed to both Peacock and Netflix if you want to watch the old pay-per-views and the old episodes of Raw. So, unfortunately, more money out of everybody's pocket, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately was the goal from them.
Yeah.
Is to get more money into the coffers and out of our pocket.
Yeah, they're really spreading it out now to all the different services.
They're also spreading our ass cheeks out.
Kind of makes you wish you would have bought some stock in Titan Sports back in, what was it, 2000 they went public?
Sometime around there. Yeah, 2002 maybe, I think. A little bit after, yeah.
Hell of a return 20-some odd years later.
Yep.
Well, I guess we should just cap it off there. We are doing our best to figure out the situation. Solid answers probably aren't going to come until at least January 6th. And I think I can confidently say for all three of us that this won't be our last episode. At the very least, I think we can all get hammered and have a goodbye episode.
Absolutely, yeah.
This is basically just going to be a week-by-week situation.
Yeah.
Well, and hopefully, because this will drop Monday the 6th, this episode that we're recording right now, hopefully by that time, everything we're saying here is worthless.
Right.
And they've added everything, and we could just come back the next week and be like, well, that last episode was just us worrying for nothing.
We will have successfully performed the bait and switch.
Yeah.
I just worry about our international listeners, so hopefully they can reach out and give us some answers. Because even if we get everything next week, they might not. So it would be great to know. But even if they don't reach out to us, I'm sure that there's going to be panic all over Twitter and Reddit and everything else that we'll be able to figure it out. So hopefully WWE just gets their shit together and gets everything up there for everybody.
Couldn't agree more.
What are we going to do now that we can't see the DOA?
Or the Brawl for All.
Yeah.
I feel like drinking now, just at the thought of it. They just started a new feud with the LOD. Paul Ellering is involved. That's the secret sauce to spice that feud up. And I'm going to be denied it now.
Yeah.
Just getting into him taking over for them and giving them the push they needed.
Well, you're joking about that, but what you're not going to see is the news of DOA officially being gone.
No.
You would have ended your podcast run while in the prime of DOA.
Man. Once again, everybody, Joe Giammatteo living up to the doomsayer reputation that he earned here.
Bringing the death.
The worst possible spin on the situation. No, but you're right. That's the thing, is that there is a lot of things that I would love to have some closure on with Monday Night Raw. And not just getting rid of the DOA, but there are so many moments that we've talked about anticipating that it's kind of up in the air. We don't know.
What's going to happen with Dan the Beast Severn?
Right. Does he finally have that match with Ken Shamrock? We're never going to find out. And
the grudge match.
Yeah. One of the things that I love most about doing this podcast is sharing this material with you guys and our listeners, and they're just doing every goddamn thing they can to keep us from sharing this with each other and our listeners. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess the best way I could leave it is...
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep. So yeah, that's it. We're going to wrap it up here. And once again, international listeners, or hell, listeners here in the United States, please, if you're feeling the itch and can't scratch it because you've been cucked by the cock, email us. I'd like to hear it. At the very least, we'll get some entertaining content to read on the air here. So
yeah, some filler maybe while we wait for episodes to show up.
We'll start editing the clip shows now, just in case. But so that's it. We will be back one way or the other to keep everybody updated. So for Ryan, for Joe, I'm Jason. And hopefully one of these days soon, this will again be Wrasslin Raw.